Alright, I did say I wasn't gonna try and do anything or organize anything because, heavens forbid, we hoist the moral burden of having to side with Arch onto anyone. That would truly be dreadful, and I'm not either, but I want to make one point. And that is that if you're going to be boycotting anything, boycott Warhammer Plus. Because this, I do believe, is their Achilles heel. Now, even if you do, mind you, do not expect immediate results. I am absolutely confident, having a fair bit of experience in running businesses myself, that Warhammer Plus will have been planned to run at a deficit for quite some time, because it is a major, huge investment they're making here in terms of personnel, staff, equipment, PCs, software, the animators themselves, etc., etc. Furthermore, Warhammer Plus as it stands right now offers precious little. It's some YouTube videos, access to some books, one free miniature, and the promise of animations in the future. But nevertheless, if you really want to try and hurt Games Workshop, if you want to try and make them correct course, Warhammer Plus is where you need to be hitting them. And so if you will indulge me, let me lay out my reasoning and my rationale for this. First and foremost, it is one of convenience, because the thing is, boycotts do not work. They really don't. I know, it's a little bit contradictory to what I just said, but by and large, boycotts are not functional because you need a great deal of discipline across the entirety of the purchasing base, which is very difficult, if not indeed nearly impossible to organize outside of truly large-scale events and absolute catastrophic cock-ups. Because the casuals, the normies, the people who aren't really all that deeply invested into the hobby will usually make up any deficit that the hardcore fan base can subtract from a boycott. And in many cases, like for example with the Call of Duty boycott that happened a few years ago, a lot of the people who claim to want to be boycotting also tend to crumble rather quickly. And if I am to be entirely honest, I do suspect a large portion of the 40k and Warhammer community is probably going to belong to that category as well. At the very least, so far as actual tabletop miniatures are concerned. I am willing to bet that come the next big announcement of the next big box set, you will be seeing the same amount of hype as usual on all the usual websites. But unlike the tabletop miniatures, unlike what is literally the heart of the hobby, Warhammer Plus is not a particularly great offering, and it is one that it is very easy to talk down. First and foremost, as mentioned, a lot of the stuff that's on Warhammer Plus right now, or at the very least what it's going to be launching with, is literally YouTube content. If you want painting tutorials, search for it on YouTube. There are going to be dozens of channels. If you want battle reports, same thing. If you want lore, same damned thing. And as for the books, a subscription service to ebooks that you'll lose access to when you cancel the service? Is that worth $6 a month? God no. The only real selling point is the animations. And what you need to do there is flip it on the head a little bit. On the one hand, Astartes was absolutely brilliant, but a lot of the reason why we thought it was so brilliant is because it was made by one dude. And so there's no problem at all waiting several months for the next minute or two of animations. It's worth the wait, and it's one guy doing it on his own time and his own dime. We don't expect necessarily high-level voice acting. We don't necessarily expect all of it to be polished. We expect it to be a fan animation. But now, these animations are being produced by a company with a revenue of over £100 million a year. And you should adjust your expectations to fit that. Don't let them make the excuse that, oh no, we just hired this guy, it's still just one guy doing it. I don't care. You have a whole company infrastructure. You are selling this now. Astartes was free, you're asking for a monthly fee. I expect even better animations. I expect much longer and much more frequent installments. I expect top quality voice acting. I expect music. I expect improved effects. This needs to be an even better product because this is a paid for product now produced by a £100 million corporation. And that, of course, leads me neatly on to this second argument. Namely that out of all of the sacrifices you could be making, Warhammer Plus is the least of them. Boycotting Warhammer or 40k as a total, that is a huge thing to ask of something that's probably unreasonable because it is putting their entire hobby on hold. Asking someone to not sign up for Warhammer Plus, all you're losing out on there is, ebook subscription, YouTube content, some local event tickets if you're even allowed to leave the house at the moment, and some animations, which, by the way, I guarantee you will swiftly be available via alternative sources. And that's all well and good. Warhammer Plus is not the biggest sacrifice to make, and hopefully it is something you could convince others to decide to give up as well, or never subscribe to, preferably in the first place. But the crux of the issue is, of course, that it needs to be effective, that it needs to be something that can damage Games Workshop enough to make them come back to their senses. And the reason why I think that is Warhammer Plus is by looking at their business model right now and how it's structured and how they are acting. With the most blatant example obviously being their recent actions against fan animations. They are knowingly, purposefully, and actively antagonizing the entirety of their fan base just to create a walled garden to force you into subscribing to Warhammer Plus. That is an incredible amount of bad will they are embracing with both hands, whilst also going after modders for a third-party licensed game. They are desperate to get you to subscribe to Warhammer Plus. There is no other explanation for why they would be willing to go to such extreme lengths of bad PR to do so. But even if we know that is the case, the big question then becomes, why? Why are they so eager to move over to this market? Well, we know they've been having production issues for a very long time, and they seem completely unable to solve them, to the point that their range of old models keeps shrinking. If you go to the Forge World page, you will see so many things are simply sold out or temporarily out of stock, etc. They are simply not able to meet demand. And again, this has been a problem now for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. It's been a long time with this problem, and having more than my fair share of little Tweety birds within the ranks of Games Workshop, I can tell you this as well. As somebody who literally works with automation, I would have no issues doubling or damn near tripling their production very easily. There are a lot of very simple automation solutions they could implement with dick all investment for a company of their size, and yet they are not doing it. And again, this is not because I'm particularly brilliant in the field. These are some very simple things they could be doing, yet they aren't. And they haven't been doing it for a very, very long time. This taken into consideration alongside the fact that they absolutely refuse to digitalize any of their products. They refuse to sell templates for 3D printers. They refuse to simply digitalize their goddamn board game. Tells me that either it is absolute unbelievable criminal incompetence, or that's simply just not a part of their plan. which fits in very nicely with my own preferred little conspiracy theory as to why all of this is happening. Namely, that Games Workshop as a company has been and are currently in the process of moving away from the tabletop hobby. In the next 5 to 10 years, they want to be selling their license. They want more video games, console games, mobile games. They want more toys. They want plushies. They want box sets of simplified rules sold at Target and Walmart. This is the future they see, and they say as much, albeit in a veiled fashion, in their latest investor report. And Warhammer Plus is the crucial key piece in that. It is a subscription service that you will have to pay to be a part of, where they can bombard you with essentially advertisement. Look at this cool painting tutorial for our latest release. Look at this new battle report where our blatantly overpowered new unit, which will fix in a month post-release, mind you, absolutely brutalized the opponent army. Look at this lore video, heavy quotation marks, where we feature our latest models. Oh, and look at this, an animation featuring it as well. Not to mention the future integration with the other fields too. The toys, the plushies, the TV shows, the live action shows, the animations. All of these things will be pushed hard on Warhammer Plus to what is essentially a caged audience that are paying for the privilege of being marketed to. So let me again summarize it all in a brief fashion in case you want to make the argument to others, and I highly recommend you do. I highly recommend you share this video, you talk about it, you talk about Warhammer Plus, and you talk about why it should be avoided like the plague. Games Workshop is pissing off their fan base. They know they're doing it. They are continuing to do it. Stridently and aggressively, they don't care. They're not responding, they're not talking about it. They are creating a walled garden to push Warhammer Plus. They are going to try to force you into Warhammer Plus whilst offering you almost nothing. Comparatively again to the fact that this is a streaming service once more offered by a £1 million corporation. This will then be the springboard for them to launch themselves into monetizing their IP. Not through hobby products, not through real value given to you, but rather via things aimed at a broader audience. Licenses, animations, video games, mobiles, toys, and I bet you as well, very soon, collaborations with more major companies. They've already done Marvel, they've already done Magic the Gathering, and I firmly believe it is only a question of time until we see the Hasbros or the Disneys of the world on the horizon. And God help us when that happens. So again, I don't do this often, but please, consider talking to this about people. Push it. Push the idea. Try to keep people away from Warhammer Plus. If you like the hobby the way it is now, as an actual hobby, rather than simply just a marketable IP, this is the moment to stand up and do something. Suggest the idea to your favorite content creators as well. Suggest it on fan groups, websites, Reddits. Attempt to focus the conversation in on Warhammer Plus, and what, again, frankly, a poor offering it is compared to the damage that is being inflicted on the fandom in its sole name and benefit. Until next time, I have been Arch. Thank you all very much for listening, and thank you for any and all efforts that you can expend in trying to make this happen. Have a good day.